Hi, my name is Maciej Saja, and I have prepared a presentation about 15-minute cities. So, as a starter, I have a few questions to warm you up. You don't need to answer in whole sentences, you just need to raise up your hand if your answer is positive for a question. So, my first question is, how many of you have got any publicly available green area, such as a park, within 15 minutes from where you live? You can raise up your hand. Okay, my second question is, do you have a good place to meet up with your friends within a 15-minute walk from your home? Again, raise your hands. Okay, and the last question that I have is, can you go for shopping for something else than groceries within 15 minutes of where you live? Okay, I see that not too many of you raised up your hand, and if you didn't raise up your hand every time I asked a question, it probably means that you do not live in a 15-minute city, and it might kind of bring you thinking about what is a 15-minute city and what a 15-minute city isn't. So a 15-minute city is a very modern concept in architecture and in urban studies, and what it refers to is the fact that it refers to planning a neighborhood in such a way that all of the basic functions, so work, education, shopping, healthcare, sports, etc., can be fulfilled within a 15-minute walk, a 15-minute bike ride, or a 15-minute journey by public transportation from where you live. In my presentation, I'm going to talk about this concept and about the way we can transform our cities so that they can fulfill this concept more. So next slide, please. So a 15-minute city has many benefits, however, and there are three main characteristics that it has. So firstly, a 15-minute city is an eco-friendly city. Because in order to fulfill your basic needs, your basic necessities, you can walk, you can cycle, and you do not need to use a car all of the time. And a 15-minute city helps us with reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And we need to do that because if we want to meet our climate goals, then the emissions from transportation need to be slashed, and it currently comprises 22% of all the greenhouse gas emissions in the European Union. Secondly, a 15-minute city in a 15-minute city, there is a high quality of life. So in such a city, there is no air pollution, there is no smog. You can walk more, you can cycle more, and therefore you live healthier and are healthier. You're less prone to becoming obese, less prone to have certain diseases, and if you do not waste too much of your time on commuting and getting to different places. And last but not least, a 15-minute city is a city for all. So regardless of whether you're a child, whether you're very old, regardless of whether you broke your leg or are from one of the kind of more discriminated groups in a city, a 15-minute city is a city for you. Next slide, please. So I'm a student in Batory High School and in the IB program, and I was writing my extended essay, which is a 4,000-word essay on any chosen topic by me, and it's a part of my curriculum. And as you might have already guessed it, I wrote it about the concept of the 15-minute city. And such a city has two main characteristics, and the two main findings from my work are basically that denser districts score higher in the regard to which they fulfill this concept. However, density in itself is not everything, because denser districts, although they generally score higher, they usually score much, much lower on access to green spaces, and in not every dense district there are enough workplaces. Next slide, please. And also, I was investigating whether the districts closer to the city center fulfill this concept more, and kind of both fortunately and unfortunately they do, because the quality of life in those districts is basically much, much higher. And thanks to this, however, districts that are further from it usually score worse. Next slide. And basically, what it kind of brings us to is the fact that our cities and the environment we live in should be dense, but it also shouldn't be too dense at the same time. This is a photo that a friend of mine posted on Twitter some time ago. It went quite viral. Maybe someone from you has seen it. And what it depicts is, it depicts two neighborhoods. They are about 500 meters from where we currently are. And there is a new neighborhood that is obviously denser, that is very tightly packed. And there is also an older neighborhood that's not as dense, but is the new neighborhood a better place to live? Not really. Next slide. In a 15-minute city, you, as I've previously mentioned, don't need to travel for long distances to get to school or to get to work. So what this graphic depicts is the distribution of younger people in Warsaw, and the distribution among districts. So most young people live in the districts outside of the city center, yet what they have to do is they have to commute to the city center to go to their high school. And I think that this situation is quite stupid, and it's also a bit wrong, because most young people do not have the necessary facilities to sustain the necessary facilities that they have to go to in the place where they live, and they have to commute for 30 minutes or even for an hour to get to a school, which should be in every neighborhood, and it's quite absurd. Next slide. And another kind of example of facilities that should be distributed more evenly throughout the city are cultural facilities. So I think that if each one of you would like to go to a cinema, to a theater, or maybe even to a library, you would have to move somewhere, and you would have to go somewhere for a very, very long time. And what we need to do, not only in Warsaw, but in many cities in which we currently live, is the fact that we should distribute those types of facilities more evenly throughout the city. So a good example is the Sinfonia Varsovia Concert Hall, which is due to be built around 300 meters from where we currently are. And it will kind of shift this very, very wrong balance between where the cultural facilities are and where the people are who want to attend such a show. And what is also very important is the fact that such investments help rejuvenate new districts, help bring kind of outsiders to it. And next slide, please. And the last aspect that is very important and that is very wrong, that is very wrongly kind of built in Warsaw, is the distribution of offices. So most of you probably know that there are more offices on the left side of the river, and there's not only more offices on the left side of the river. There's not only slightly more offices on the left side of the river, but there is 20 times as many offices on the left side of the river. So 1/3 of the population that lives on the right side of the river in Warsaw has to commute every day through the Vistula River to get to work. And in Warsaw, we should think about distributing offices, about distributing many facilities in a more even way, but it is, I forgot the English word, but it's mieczobosieczne. Because it also hurts people that live in areas where there are too many offices, because I think that all of you know the example of Mordor, and the fact that this district consists mostly of offices, and on weekends it's a desolate wasteland. So what we should do is we should also transform the districts in which there are too many offices in such a way to bring other functions there. And another very important and last thing that I would like to stress is the fact that before we expand our city, before our city sprawls, and before our city takes, for example, farmlands, forests, and the neighborhood terrain, is that we should use the unused spaces near the city center. So many of you, while coming here, maybe use the Metro Stadion Narodowy station, which is located right here. And if you went away from it, then you have seen probably this giant empty field, which should be, in my opinion, built up earlier before we spent millions and billions of złotys and expand our city to districts such as Wawer, and take up new space, build infrastructure, and build new infrastructure when we have infrastructure already that is here. However, in a 15-minute city, not all of the functions can be made within, not everything can be done within 15 minutes. So you might date someone living on the other side of town, or you might need to get to a specialized facility like a hospital that can be located on the other side of town. So what we also need in a 15-minute city is efficient transportation, and there is no more efficient mode of transportation than no more efficient and no more cost-effective mode of transportation than bus lanes. So a bus lane costs as much as a can of paint, yet it can transport 3 times as many people as a regular car lane. And although the bus lane may seem a bit empty, each of the buses in here can carry about 150 people, so there can be, and there probably is more people in those 3 buses than in most of the cars in the picture. And another very important aspect in transforming our city to be a 15-minute city is the fact that we should decrease the number of barriers. They are uncomfortable for young children, for the elderly, and they split up districts in few parts. So this is an example of an intersection in Mokotów. And it's a very inhumane space. It's a space that doesn't really work for anyone except for the people that are traveling by cars. And the number of such spaces should be reduced to a minimum in the cities we live in, so that our communities could be compact, so that our communities could be compact, and so that moving on foot or moving by bike would be more efficient, would be more comfortable, and would be more attractive, because this is not attractive for people that walk or bike at all. And in summary, creating a 15-minute city does not require really any rocket science. There are a few simple principles that we can take. We should build our cities in a dense way, but they shouldn't also be too dense. We should distribute different facilities more evenly throughout the city, so that Warsaw would be a better place to live. It would be a place with less discrimination, and so that taxpayers' money would be spent more, and so that taxpayers' money would be spent in a better way and more efficiently, and And another benefit of a 15-minute city is that you wouldn't spend grueling hours in traffic jams, and you wouldn't do that every day. Thank you.